Welcome, quiet soul. You always hear what others miss. You are the listener history has been waiting for. So today you are Mary Read. Yes, you. Not the girl in some history book, not a Hollywood pirate with wind-tangled hair and a sly glance. You were not born for adventure, and you were never meant to become a legend. The truth is much simpler and also much harder to accept. You were born to pretend to be someone who was already gone. Sounds strange, right? But do not turn off this video just yet. Look directly at reality at a time when people were still being hanged at the docks, and a single welfare coin could decide a child's whole life. From the very first moment your mother pulled you close and whispered in a cold voice, the voice of someone who had lost her husband, lost a child, and lost her faith in justice. She said, "From now on you are not Mary, you are Mark. Only boys can survive in a place like this." You did not get to choose, no one asked for your opinion, and you never had time to sigh. One morning you simply woke up and had to learn to respond when someone called Mark. You had to walk like a boy who had never known fear practice, tightening your lips and toughening up pretending to be strong, so the other kids would not figure out that you were not actually a boy. Every lie sent a sharp pain through your heart, but poverty was even scarier than the truth. Before you quietly close your eyes at the end of another long day, let me whisper something to you. What if everything you have believed is true was really just a cruel joke from history? Would you be willing to start from the very beginning with me and look back at it all? And before we dive into the story, I would love to know if anything in this video made you feel something or left an impression. Leave a comment below. Maybe your thoughts will become a hidden treasure the whole community wants to find. And if you enjoyed it, do not forget to like, share, or subscribe. Sometimes one little click can send hundreds of stories out into the world. Are you ready? Right now, forget about every role you play in real life. This is your moment to step into a story called Changing Your Name to Survive. From this point on, you are playing the toughest Mark in the entire marketplace neighborhood. Your world is not a playground for dancers or princesses in fancy dresses. It is more like a boot camp for little street gangs where a punch replaces a good morning and bruises are how you count the days as you grow up. Does it hurt? Of course it does, but no one ever bothers to ask if you're okay. Here, if you fall just 1 second too late, your mouth ends up full of dirt. Once the head bully shoved your face into a muddy puddle. He even grinned generously and warned you, if you cry, you are out of the group for good. All you wanted to do was shout back at him, but instead you swallowed your tears and quietly ate mud just to keep playing the part of Mark. The funniest thing is, even with a bruised head and blood-stained clothes, you still had to tell yourself, it is okay. Pain is just skin deep. If my secret gets out, that would be a total disaster. Ordinary days went by in a string of solo fights and fresh bruises, all just to keep your spot in the group. They would tease, "You fight like a hen," and you would growl, "Try being a rooster for a day, see if you last." Sometimes you had to fake a big smile hiding fresh scratches on your arm, so your mother would not ask, "How did you let those kids beat you?" Honestly, all you ever wanted was just one day to try on a dress to be spoiled and beg your mother for candy to cry your heart out in the middle of the market if you felt like it. But even your dreams seemed to play tricks on you. Every night you dreamed of being a girl, but every morning you woke up nervous, checking if you accidentally called yourself by the wrong name, or let a tear slip in front of anyone. The pain was real, but sometimes it felt funny too, because around here, if Mark so much as frowned, everyone in the neighborhood would be laughing by the next day. Just one slip in your childhood and your life would turn into a dark comedy. Wanting to be yourself was somehow the biggest joke in the world. Here, weakness was a one-time act. If you could not pull it off, your role was over for good. But before the show could end, your own body pulled off a plot twist you never saw coming. You did not know whether to laugh, cry, or just run away. Puberty came like a cruel director. In the morning, you were still the tough Mark, but by the afternoon you panicked after noticing a strange red stain on your pants. Your stomach twisted with pain, but you never dared to complain, so you just pretended to be dizzy from the sun. You forced a smile through the pain while screaming inside, "This is it. If anyone finds out, I will not just lose the part. They will call me out in front of everyone." Your chest started to grow each day, feeling like sitting on a nest of fire ants. It hurt, it was humiliating, and you wished you could just flatten your ribs back to how they used to be. You struggled with scraps of old cloth, wrapping yourself so tightly you could barely breathe, red marks spreading across your skin. At night, you would finally unwrap yourself, but you never dared to groan. The most comical scene in this tragedy was how you charged onto the soccer field outside laughing along with the boys. But inside you are sneaking rags from the house, folding them, and trying every way to bind your chest like a makeshift tailor. One time you even grabbed the dish towel by mistake and thought, well, maybe it is cleaner than the old rag. At worst, it will just make me itch a little more. Every step you take outside is a battle with fear. If anyone stares at you for too long, or one of your friends slaps you on the back a little too hard, your heart skips a beat. You're terrified your chest binding will come undone, and if that happens, it is all over. Periods never come with a warning. Sometimes in the middle of a game, you suddenly feel a chill run down your spine and have to sneak away, your face drained of colour. Your mother does not look at you with softness anymore. Her eyes are cold as she warns, you cannot use the bathroom with anyone else. No one is allowed to see you bathe. Remember that. You nod, but deep down all you want to ask is, Mom, does anyone really survive here? At night, curled up in a corner, your hand on the red marks left from binding, you can only whisper into the darkness, if this world has no place for me, what is the point of living at all? The pain is real, but sometimes it is almost funny. Being a man is hard, but being a woman is 10 times harder, and you cannot complain to anyone except your old blanket every night. Morning comes, and before you can even groan, life throws you into another episode of your dark comedy starring Mark the Master of Survival Tricks. You jump into every job you can find. As a waiter, you hear people yell, "Hey boy, why are you so slow with those drinks?" When you lead horses, you nearly get your teeth kicked out. On a ship, the old sailors shout your name as if Mark is shorthand for every kind of bad luck there is. The special feature of a man's world is that no one ever asks if you are all right. The only rule is, if you can carry the weight, do it. If not, get out of the way. Bathing is like a reality show, except you never want to be a contestant. You spend ages waiting for the bathroom to be the emptiest and the water the dirtiest, then you rush in for a lightning fast wash. Sometimes you're so nervous your hands shake and you almost fall face first into the bucket. If you come out flustered, some kid snickers, "What, you scared of water, Mark?" Even drinking water is an act, because if you drink too much, you will need to use the bathroom. On a ship, going to the bathroom is like an obstacle course, in a den of wolves, where every stall is missing a door or a lock. Some days you hold it so long you dream of a heaven with toilets that actually have locks, just so you do not have to worry about anyone barging in. Whenever the guys talk about women saying good liquor is better, women are just trouble. You force a crooked smile and reply, exactly, just trouble, nothing more. You laugh along, but inside you feel like the clown in the marketplace cracking jokes to survive, while deep down you wish you could say what you really mean. What you fear most are those surprise jokes. Someone slaps you on the back too hard, almost pulling your binding loose. Sometimes you cannot even sit still, constantly worried that someone will notice you breathe differently. And there is no way to cover the scent of blood every month, not even with the fishy cologne the sailors use on board. The world outside might be cold, but it is nothing compared to your sleeping corner, squeezed next to the cargo crates where the snores and cursing last all night. But they cannot drown out the feeling that you are the only one playing hide-and-seek with yourself. Sailor life is funny like that. Everyone thinks it is all brotherhood and good times, but you are part drinking buddy, part undercover spy, and part leading lady in a secret film. You made up always hoping the big reveal never comes. In the middle of a packed world, the loneliest person of all turns out to be you. Mark does not have a single honest audience. You once thought being a man was hard. Try being someone who has to bind their chest day and night, every breath squeezed out like a fish gasping on dry land, and you realise this stunt double life is paid for with real pain. The wraps turn raw. After a while your skin cracks and oozes, and every time you take them off it feels like peeling off dragon scales, the pain sinking deep into your bones. On sleepless nights you only dare to shift your body ever so gently, afraid that the slightest creak from the bandages will make someone suspicious. Some nights you just want to jump up, tear everything off and shout as loud as you can, "I am a girl, I am Mary." But the moment that thought sparks, you clamp your own mouth shut, the fear settling over you like an icy hand, and forcing you to stay silent until your tears have dried up on their own. The funniest thing is, once you tried to change your bindings at dawn, sure that everyone was still asleep. Out of nowhere, a half-awake roommate wandered in. Your heart nearly burst out of your chest. You quickly grabbed whatever you could, stuffed it into a sack, faked a stomachache, and waited until midnight to sneak away running like a fugitive in a prison break. No alarms, no warning, just pure panic. You used to ask yourself, am I Mark or am I Mary? If I had to choose, who would I pick? Some days you want to be Mark just to breathe easy among the men where nobody looks twice. Other times you wish you could be Mary for real, Wear a dress, hold your head high with nothing to hide, and stop running. Your world is not just made up of the strong and the weak. There are people even more on the edge than you prostitutes who quietly glance at you in the night eyes full of caution and pity, some just looking away and moving on. Others whisper rumours, and some nights you even get threatened. If I ever find out who you are, I will rat you out. All you can do is twist your mouth into a crooked smile and pretend to sound tough, while inside your guts are twisting with fear. This body that was supposed to be armour turns out to be a prison with no way out. You have played the role of Mark so long you have worn down the bandages, but Mary's spirit is still trapped somewhere inside, waiting for a chance to finally breathe as herself. Then, between tasteless cold meals and a barracks that smells like old socks and echoes with snoring every night, fate throws you an unexpected chance. There is a soldier different from the rest, who looks at you a little longer than necessary and sometimes laughs at jokes only true outsiders understand. At first you're careful. In the army, trusting someone is harder than trusting the dinner will come with extra meat. But one day, while on duty, you get a fever and sit shivering in the corner of the tent. He comes over and leans in close. There is no small talk. He asks, "Mark, are you hiding something?" You force a weak smile running through 100 excuses in your head, but in the end you just let the words fall out. "If I told you I am not entirely Mark, would you keep it quiet?" He does not answer. He just takes off his coat and puts it over your shoulders, then whispers, maybe just to himself, "Everyone has secrets, Mary, but your secret is the reason you have survived this long." For the first time in your life, you did not have to play any role at all. The two of you outsiders to the world's game created your own private universe. You hid together in a hayloft, counting the stars through holes in the roof. You wore an old dress that he had secretly borrowed from a captain's wife. You trembled partly from the fear of getting caught, and partly from hearing your real name spoken out loud for the very first time. Once you tried to curl your hair using boiling water. All you got was a head of scorched hair, and the two of you burst into laughter in the middle of the night. Anyone passing by would have thought the barracks were haunted. Your wedding was so simple it was funny. He cut a belt into 2 rings, pressed one into your hand and muttered, "There is no priest here, just us and a bunch of rats as witnesses, but I swear whatever we have is enough. Whether you wear a dress or pants, nothing changes what I feel for you." That happiness was strange and beautiful. Your dates were in the storage shed, dinners were just dry bread, but you could finally be yourself. You could breathe at your own pace and laugh out loud without worrying your secret would slip out. Every time you passed through the barracks and heard the soldiers shouting, "Mark, do you have a girlfriend yet?" you had to swallow your laughter, thinking, if you only knew I am both the wife and the lover of the only man here who understands me, you would choke on your words. But fate never lets outsiders rest for long. The day your husband went off to war was the day you swallowed the last bit of your dream for a normal life. When the news of his death arrived, you were not allowed to weep and wail, nor could you call out his real name in front of the others. At the funeral you wore your uniform and stood in silence. Mark looked cold as stone, but Mary cried her heart out inside with no one ever knowing. That night you pulled out the ring made from his belt, laughing and cursing at the same time, wondering if anyone else in the world got married with nothing but old scraps and rats for witnesses. Freedom came once, and then the door shut again. After a few nights you found yourself slipping back into the same darkness. Mark put on the chest binder while Mary quietly folded her dreams and tucked them under the bed, pretending not to hear the soldiers outside cursing women. "All women ever do is cause trouble," they shouted. You thought to yourself, if they had to survive as a woman the way I did, maybe they would have to go through a few belts themselves and maybe they would complain a lot less. In the end, nobody could tell who you were anymore, not even you. You were like a bird that had learned what the sky felt like only to lock itself back in the cage. All that remained was the open sea, a place where no one knew who you were. You decided to run away one last time, hoping that the storms outside would be easier to face than the cramped cage you left behind. But the sea is never a paradise for those who are lost. You threw yourself into sailor life, imagining you were the hero of a brand new play Mark read the toughest sailor on deck. The problem was this stage was even more brutal than the army barracks. Here you ate together, slept side by side, and any sense of privacy was even rarer than a calm day on the ocean. You had to manage your schedule like a master thief, sneaking out to wash your face when everyone else was asleep, drinking as little water as possible to avoid trips to the toilet, and timing your showers for the emptiest moment on the ship. Sometimes you had not even finished rinsing before being called up on deck, so you would just fake a coughing fit to cover the pounding of your heart. The sea is fierce, but people can be even fiercer. The captain watched you swing a sword, his eyes lighting up as he said, "Mark Reed, you handle a blade better than most real men." You grinned back, your hands stiff as wood, your stomach cold and tight. "Yes, sir, I practice a lot," you replied, though nobody knew you were really practicing every breath, every step, just to keep your secret and survive both the waves and the crew. The funniest part was that as a pirate, the most dangerous moments were never about sword fights or storms, but about drinking parties. Once you were forced to drink, so you pretended to gulp it all down, and then secretly spit it into your sleeve. The sailors, drunk out of their minds, still shouted, "Mark can really hold his liquor, who could ever marry a guy like that?" You put on a big laugh, but inside you just wanted to crawl down into the hold and sleep until morning. One time after too much drinking, some of the sailors cornered you trying to pull off your shirt for fun. Pure instinct took over and you kicked hard, broke free and ran panting and laughing bitterly. That was life as a sailor, like training for a beauty pageant, except your only reward was the starring role in a horror comedy. The ocean was endless, but every night you stood on deck under the cold moonlight, you felt freedom was always close and yet always out of reach. You wondered, what is freedom really when you have to live behind 100 masks, play a different role every single day, and never let anyone see who you really are? The waves never stopped crashing, and there you were caught between two selves, just hoping that one day you would not have to choose between being Mark or being Mary. You just wanted to be yourself, even if only for a fleeting moment before sunrise. Then the sea threw something truly strange into your life, Anne Bonny. People said she was fiercer than any Caribbean storm, spun a knife like a fan, and with one shout could silence every sailor on the ship. You were curious and a bit shy, secretly thinking, if anyone out here knows what it is like to live a double life, it must be her. Maybe it was fate, or maybe it was just the rum. But one night, as you sat together sneaking drinks on deck, Anne looked right at you and said, "Aren't you tired of pretending to be a man, or do you want to try being a woman for a change?" You choked on your drink, coughing hard, your eyes glued to the floor as if there was a treasure map down there. But for the first time in your life, you let yourself breathe without fear and replied, "I used to wish I did not have to hide, did not have to bind my chest, did not have to shake every time my period came. I just wish I could be myself even for one night." Anne burst out laughing, flicking the bruise on your arm. "You think you are the only one I used to bind my chest until it turned blue and every month I cursed the world. The difference is I forgot how to be scared, but you keep letting it eat you up inside." After that, the two freaks became sisters, soulmates even. Maybe the world called you monsters, a joke of nature, or people who did not know who they were. But in that little storeroom, the two of you could sit with your knees pulled up patch. Each other's wounds share stories full of shame and pain and laughter, then laugh until it all sounded like just the waves outside. Once Anne asked, "What do you think we are in history's eyes? Monsters or proof that the world got it all wrong?" You looked up at the ceiling and answered calmly, "Monsters have to eat too. Monsters have dreams too. Any world that forces us to pretend to be Mark or Mary was broken from the start." In that moment you felt light, as if you had peeled off 100 layers of binding from your chest. Pirate life, sailor life, all knives and blood, but somehow there were nights when two girls could show off scars, compare bandages and compete to see who could take the most hits. The best part was when you switched roles for fun. You tried drawing on a beard and tried to put her hair in a bun, and the two of you burst out laughing when you realised you would never fool anyone, not even from across the room. But that kind of freedom was as fragile as sea foam. The closer you grew, the more suspicion there was and the greater the danger. All it would take was one betrayal and every secret would shatter like an old barrel. So yes, you laughed, you had fun, but every night lying close together you and Anne whispered, "Who will still be here tomorrow and who will have to go?" Life had trained you to expect the rug to be pulled out, so you let yourself relax for a moment, but then braced yourself for whatever storm was coming next. Sometimes you wonder what life would be like if it were just like the rum on deck. You drink, you get drunk, you forget, and all your worries disappear. Maybe Mark and Mary could have left all their fears behind a long time ago, but real life is never that generous. This morning you do not get to be drunk. You are dragged into a courtroom, a cramped space thick with the smell of sweat, gunpowder and judgment. A Navy tribunal, all men faces like stone, each one staring at you as if you were some strange creature dragged up from the bottom of the sea. No one bothers to ask your name. No one asks why you chose this path. There is only the indictment, heavier than any anchor. Mary Reed, you're not just a criminal. You're an offence against nature itself. A woman who lives as a man, a pirate who pretends to be a boy. What lesson are you trying to teach the world? You stand there, your back straight, your eyes never leaving theirs. Fear turned to stone long ago. Now only bitterness remains. If following nature still leads to starvation, then what is the use of nature anyway? You think. Calmly, even though you know no one wants to listen, you answer, the law of hunger is older than the king's law. What ye, but courts are not places where people come to hear reason. They do not let you defend yourself. They do not let you say half a word. Every question is just a trap waiting to add another crime to your name. The old sailors' men who once sat and ate with you now look at you like a stranger. They shake their heads and whisper, not a single one brave enough to speak for you. The script is set. The part of the monster only needs its final scene. You know there is no escape. In the end, you play the last card, one that women of your century used when there was nothing left to lose. You claim to be pregnant, hoping to buy just a few more days of life. The court buzzes with whispers. Some of the fatter men even sneer. Let them check. Women like her are always scheming. You know it is just a delay, but you cling to it anyway. Every extra day is another day Mark and Mary can share a cell, even if it is a freezing dungeon and not the hangman's noose in the town square. That kind of law, that kind of justice was never meant for survivors like you. To them you are not a man, not a woman, maybe not even a person. Just the name, red left behind by history like an ink stain at the bottom of an old page. Are you a legend or just something forgotten? No one knows how your story ends. Did you die in a cell lost at sea? Or did history simply erase your name, leaving you a faint shadow drifting through old books? Your fate. Mary Read was never carved into stone, never cast in bronze, never given a holiday. Still, people sometimes tell your story like they talk about a ghost wandering offshore. There was once a Mary Read who dared to be real, who challenged the old order, who left a scar on the shield of power. Whether Mark Mary or anyone else, she lived all the way to the edge. But in the end, everyone must choose their own ending. If it were truly you, not Mark on deck, not Mary in the storeroom, but the real you, how would you choose to live? Would you quietly become a victim, let the world forget you, or stand up and become a legend, even if only for a single fleeting moment in history? Because in the end, history does not care who you wanted to be. It only asks, who will be remembered and who will be forgotten? When your whole life is a secret, what will you leave behind for this world? Maybe it is the courage to be real, to break the rules, to become a small scar on a perfect shield that is what makes a name last, even if no one ever knows where your story ends. So if it were you right now in this modern age where no one is supposed to have to hide anymore, what would you do differently from Mary Read? Would you choose to stay safe hiding in the dark, or would you step into the light, leaving your own mark on the surface of this vast ocean of life? Only you can answer that. And who knows, maybe just once, if you dare to live as your true self, you too will become a legend in your own story. So the journey of yours and of Mary Read comes to a close here. Life's story might fade into silence, and your name might slowly disappear, but dreams and the longing to be yourself never truly vanish. Tonight, let yourself rest. Set aside every role and every worry. Just being your true self, even for this moment, is already an act of courage. Good night, and who knows, in your dreams maybe you will become the bravest, truest soul on this vast ocean of life.